Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Unger and I did my behavior change project on stereotypy. The reason that I chose that is because it's something I've dealt with. Most of the clients that I've worked with have had some form of stereotypy. It's also known as stimming, so it's any type of repetitive behavior. It can be physical, it can include jumping around, flapping the hands, clapping, or repeating the same phrases, usually things that they'll see in videos or movies they like. The problem with it is that it really singles the clients out as, it's not easy to fit in with a group when you're talking to yourself, basically, is the easy way to put it. And it can just be a really big hindrance to including them in social situations with their peers, as well as it can be very difficult for things like if you're trying to do table work and they can't even focus on the task at hand because they're too busy stimming. And the difficulty in treating it is that it is automatically reinforced in almost all situations. So basically, it's something that I don't have much control over with the reinforcement. The only thing I can really do is interrupt it, but I haven't had that much success with it. So when I heard about DRO, which is differential reinforcement of other behavior, I saw a video where they were actually working with a kid who was stimming very hard, and they would do DRO with him. And basically what it is that the client would be required for a specific amount of time to not engage in that behavior. And then they would get the reinforcement after that. And you just slowly increase the time so that they can tolerate not exhibiting that behavior. And so what I like to tell parents a lot of the time, because they don't like it when their kid stims, but I have to remind them, this behavior does serve a purpose. A lot of people stim. Most of the time people do it in different ways, like tapping your foot or cracking your knuckles, any type of thing like that, which is sensory, like it feels good or whatever, and then you just do it kind of unconsciously. So it's not like it's a behavior that not everyone exhibits. It's just with children on the spectrum, they tend to do it in a way that is more socially inappropriate. So what I tell parents is that you can't really get rid of the behavior so much as you can shape it into more socially appropriate forms. So for example, if the client I specifically worked with, he'll cross his fingers in strange ways and hold them up to the side of his face, and when he's doing that, it's obvious what he's doing, but if he were able to cross his fingers but keep them in his lap, it wouldn't be as obvious, but it would still serve the purpose. So we work on shaping the behavior into something that's more appropriate, and then also teaching the client when they can engage in this behavior and when they shouldn't. So another quick example, I have older clients. They're very aware of how people perceive them. So when they're out in public, they do not do any behaviors that are that awkward. But when they're at home, they'll pace back and forth and they'll talk to themselves to an extent. But they're aware that it's appropriate in the home, it's not appropriate when you're outside the home. So a little bit about the study. The client I worked with, he's an 8-year-old male. He has autism spectrum disorder, and he goes to a school that is basically an ABA facility because his stimming was so intense that the teachers at his old school basically couldn't get him to do anything. But even though he's had services for years, he has consistently stimmed, and the parents, they really don't like it, but they haven't really sat down and worked on it too well. So I wanted to target that and try to see if we could find something that would help them out. So like I said, I used DRO, and basically what I did is I would have him, he really likes movies and he likes to earn them, so I would let him pick a movie, and then he'd put it on, and I would take data. It was basically partial interval data, so if the behavior occurred at all during the 5-minute intervals that I was looking at, I would mark it as occurring. And then I did 6 5-minute intervals, so every half hour was a session. And we would watch the movie, and if he engaged in the stimming behavior, so when I took baseline, I just marked it down, and our baseline was pretty high, as you can see in the graph. It was, 100% at times. When he gets stimming, he just does it. It's really hard to break him out of it, especially if you don't say anything. So when we did the intervention, once I started that, when he began stimming, I would pause the movie. And he's used to this because his parents would tell him, if you don't stop stimming, you have to stop the movie. But that wasn't being very effective. So because it was just a threat. I mean, they weren't following through on it. So I would just pause the movie. I wouldn't even give him a warning, and then I would just tell him, okay, I need a minute without stimming, and I would start the timer for him. And it actually worked out really well. I didn't think it would be that successful because he's very intense sometimes when he's doing the stereotypy. But I mean, he's also aware, and I realized while working with him that he knows when people are watching him and he knows what they're looking for. So when I was observing him, he knew that I was looking for the stimming behavior, so he was trying really hard to not do it. And it was really effective. As you can see in the graph, I had a drop pretty quickly, and it just kept dropping over time as he realized like what was expected of him. And then you can see, so I did a multiple baseline across settings, and you can see that as I continued in we did it in another room, it still increased. And so initially when we started in the other room, because I had started the intervention in the first room, his stimming, it dropped down. So like he wasn't doing it, but as he realized that I wasn't putting any consequence for the stimming, he pretty much it raised back up. So until I started providing the intervention in across multiple settings, then it finally dropped, and it got pretty low. So I was pretty happy with the results that we found. But I think it's kind of particular to his case. I don't know if it would be the same across all individuals, but that would be something to look into in the future. But yeah, I really enjoyed this project, and I'm hoping that the family can stick to what I started and hopefully find some type of solution.